Hello, this is my podcast, The Bloody Vegans. You're very welcome to it. Each week, I'll be travelling ever deeper into the world of veganism, discovering along the way a multitude of viewpoints from the political and ethical to the practical. I'll be doing this through a series of conversations, each aiming to further illuminate my understanding and hopefully yours of all things plant-centric. In this week's episode, I chat with Callum Harris, founder of Made by Blitz. Made by Blitz can be found on Instagram, and it's ultimately a recipe channel for all things kind of vegan. You can find some incredibly cost-effective, dead easy to make recipes that are super creative, really tasty, and all devised by Callum. And delivered in an incredibly engaging way on Instagram. So I would check it out. But have a listen to this conversation between me and Callum first. There's a little bit of background noise, and that's because we recorded this at Plant Powered Expo in Olympia in early Feb. Do enjoy. This is me and Callum. When did you first become vegan then, Callum?
Great question. Right, so I became vegan like 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half really. So in July time. And it actually started just through a family friend. So we were at a barbecue. I was eating chicken, just piling up my plate with chicken, salmon and whatnot, not really caring. And this family friend was obviously eating vegan food, and I sort of was questioning sort of how he was not functioning, but in sort of he had a really good physique.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I sort of thought, okay, if he's got a really good physique, in fact probably one better than mine, and he's eating plant food, then surely it's fine. So then I was asking him about the important stuff and bits and bobs like that, and one thing led to another, and then I eventually started cutting out the food that I thought was going to be essential. So, for example, I started with cutting the meat and the dairy out first. Then I had a bit of fish in the diet. Then I cut that out, and from there I was able to just use vital ingredients like tofu and chickpeas and black beans and whatnot, and just sort of get the protein from there, because that was the element I was most concerned about, getting the protein.
Yeah.
And I think it's still one of the big concerns of like a vegan diet.
So you were into your kind of health and fitness at this point. The kind of the physique was important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So getting the right physique and getting the right things in your diet was very important to me.
Yeah.
And I think it has been for quite a significant part of my life, because it just felt like something I had to do and have in a way. So I wanted to test myself and sort of try and see what it would be like if you didn't have any of the elements and you were just left with plants.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've survived was brilliant.
So
After
far,
a
you
month,
haven't keeled
felt
over.
Fresher, felt more like I had everyone says the same symptoms, and you do feel those symptoms. So like, for example, you feel a lot more awake. You don't get groggy in the morning. I would say you have a lot more energy, and I think, me personally, it changed the whole way I go about things now.
Yeah.
Just purely through what you eat.
So I'd love to go back to this conversation at the beginning, right? So you're at this barbecue.
Yes, okay.
And you see what family friend.
Yeah.
He's got this physique. You're thinking, how's this guy vegan?
Yeah.
What kind of questions did you ask him? Did you kind of bombard him with the usual sort of questions you'd expect?
Do you know? It's funny because I can't really recall what I said, but it was more along the lines of, why would you do it?
Right.
So why would you be that? And he, although was like you're cutting out animal products, and you are essentially pro animals by sustaining and having a vegan diet, he was more on the climate side of things.
Sure. Okay.
And he was actually went vegan because he had a really bad back problem, and it was muscular pain, and I think he had every sort of antibiotic to get that sorted, and it didn't work. So he switched his diet, had purely vegan food, a lot of greens in his food, had soups and wraps and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And eventually his back then started to strengthen again, and then he started to lose body fat and things
Right.
like that. That's how he told me it worked. But the real sticking point was the fact that he gave me some really important insights about climate change, and it sort of jolted me in a way, because I thought, oh, like crap, because eventually we're going to have to start doing something, whether it be going out and taking part in activism, or like selling something to offset carbon emissions and stuff. We're eventually going to have to do something. And his philosophy on saying that you could just purely do that by your food was the reason I then got into it. And I usually get like anyone knows me, I usually get like 2 platefuls of food everywhere I go, and I just had the one that day, and then it just sort of put me off what I was eating.
So were you quite sceptical at first then? From what he first said, did you feel like you needed to go and research afterwards?
Yeah, extremely sceptical. Like, I think I was like everyone else, like when they first start. I was just very benign to what you could actually do and what food you needed, and it was like learning to walk again. It was
right.
It was like you get all these. You're used to cooking all these things, and you're used to cooking for yourself and elements like that, and eventually you get given nothing. And yes, it was a lot of research, and I bought a lot of books. Like, for example, I didn't buy the essential like climate activist things, but I bought the Bosch book, and that really helped in the terms of getting into vegan food. I watched Cowspiracy, and that put me off. I was like, oh crap, maybe I will have to do this. But it all just had to be learnt again, and everything I needed to know, I needed to research. So the protein was the one for me, the one sticking point as to what was going to get me over the edge of actually being a vegan. So when I found out that there's actually more protein sources than you could imagine, that the protein sources that you think are lacking protein actually help give animals their protein, so then why don't you just have that rather than needing the animal?
The sort of cutting out the middleman argument.
Like the whole game changers thing, essentially.
Precisely.
But, obviously that wasn't publicised until they sort of called it the middleman as such. But it just purely it was just research and getting to grips with how to cook again.
Yeah. Well, that was what I wanted to come on to, because obviously, cooking for you is not only a passion, but you've managed to convey it to the general public, the vegan public, in a fantastically simple way, and give people those ideas of perhaps how to get back onto cooking some of their favourite dishes as well, which I particularly love. Where did your passion for cooking kind of like start from?
Good question. Right, so if we trace it back to like years and years ago, so I was about 15 maybe, and I think it was at the time where you start to realise you get attracted to like girls and stuff, and I didn't have the best physique at all, so I was quite chubby. I just didn't really know what to eat. I think a healthy vegetable on the side of choice was always like sweet potato and sweet potato fries and big lumps of chicken, and it was just mad because I didn't really know the aspects of cooking. And it was at that time as well where my mum said, oh, there's this bloke, he has a new cookbook out, and I was like, who's this strange bloke then? Joe Wicks. So then I started looking into his books and what he does, and it really inspired me to then change my thought into cooking. And it just so happened I started cooking a lot more recipes myself. Got my mum to get involved and start cooking the recipes, and I lost weight through that. And it wasn't something I really considered before, but once that sort of change happened, and I lost a bit of weight, I gained more confidence. I was raring to go. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sweet, I can go out and I don't have to worry about my physique. I don't have to worry about fitting into things or anything like that. And that then got me onto the urge of cooking more, because then I thought, right, if I can do that based off, if I can understand how what foods do what. Let's understand how to cook them in the best way, shape, or form.
Right. So it sort of transitioned from maybe food that was purely about kind of fuel into how do I make this taste good?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just all originated from making food fun.
Yeah.
But healthy.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen that side before. I mean, obviously, when you're 15, you see the eyes of food through what you're getting given at the dinner table every night. So
sure.
It wasn't anything I really questioned.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit mad to then go from eating very basic and processed meals to then suddenly eating really really good meals with high quantities of veg and all the vitamins and minerals you needed. And suddenly researching through there got me into cooking.
What happened when you then had to transition that to kind of vegan cooking? So you've made this kind of this switch.
Yeah.
You've got this passion for cooking kind of healthy, nutritious and fun food.
Yeah.
How did you figure out how to then do all of those same dishes perhaps and a lot more, but vegan?
That was the tricky part. I mean, it took a lot of research, for one. The second point was the taste. And funnily enough, and I feel a lot of people would say this as well with vegan cooks, most of the spices and the sauces you would use to marinate and make things like chicken and beef taste good are vegan.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with using those things in your dishes. And you create flavour through those spices and sauces and all those things. So once I knew that, it just then kicked off with me trying to experiment. So I use, if you watch the videos, I use loads of paprika. I love paprika because it gives that like smoky little essence that you get from you would get from things like chicken and beef if you go to like a barbecue place or whatnot. But I love the idea of that. Then I started using things like soy sauce and all those basic ingredients to create flavour. And I think that was that was how I found it easiest, looking into what makes food.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, okay, I not only need protein, but I also need to know how it tastes good.
Yeah.
So that's the way I went about it. Looking at what I needed, then looking at how to create that and make it good.
Yeah, sure. And the protein sources, right? So you've transitioned into this, you're figuring out the kind of where the flavour comes from.
Yeah.
Where did you kind of go to research what your protein source is, and what are your kind of big go-tos now, would you say?
Right. So I started with Google because I think that's where everyone would start. And I think everyone underestimates Google in the sense of how much we depend on it. We use it to like go places, know where things are, know facts, know who was in the Matrix, like things like that. So I essentially Googled everything. So it was like, what vegan sources of protein can you get out there? And you get the typical articles from like plant-based news or whatever, and those kind of sources. And they just list it out. They just go, all right, you need chickpeas, tofu, legumes, lentils, things like oats, for example, contain protein. And you just think, oh wow, right. So I've just found that out in the space of an instant. Found out what I needed to do, and also looking at other cookbooks as well that did vegan food. So it was just that. That was it, really.
Yeah.
It was just more of a using my own initiative to go and search the internet and look in books. And there was no real particular source that I remember. It was just more the urge to just look at various sources.
Yeah.
The ones I remember really are like plant-based news and Bosch and elements like that.
Yeah. And how did friends and family react to this kind of change in you? Were they kind of comfortable with you switching to veganism?
Right, yeah. So basically, I said at the barbecue that I was going to try it to my mum, and she said, look, let's be realistic. You're going to be going to Ibiza in a month, and I was at the time. Why don't you start after that? And I went, okay, fine, I'll start after that. And a month or two went by, and where I was cooking meals and she was cooking those meals for me. I was giving her the list of things to cook that night, and bless her, my mum, she's like, oh my God, I've now got to use jackfruit in this. Like, what?
What is jackfruit?
Yeah, what is jackfruit? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got to start using these things. But yeah, 2 months went by, and I think everyone just sort of noticed I was the same. I didn't lose any weight. I didn't gain any significant weight, but I was just me. And once they saw that, they thought, okay, we should start doing this then and just cooking more meals. And since then, yeah, my whole house cooks vegan meals every night. They occasionally obviously treat themselves to a bit of fish or whatnot, but the meat consumption, it's minimal in our house. Like, I don't think we even store fish in the fridge, or beef or chicken.
Yeah.
It's purely just vegan food.
Nice. So they kind of went with you most of the way, on it?
Yeah, I think it was because it was going to be a ball ache to cook separate meals every night. That's probably the real thing. Like, my mum's got to do loads, so to have another meal to cook is a lot of stress on a plate. So
Yeah.
she really just got used to the fact of cooking just one big meal for everyone. That
Everyone
was vegan.
can eat a vegan food.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, love that. What about milk? Did you get the family on the milk
No, do you
front?
know what? I was drinking dairy-free milk before.
Right, okay.
So I sort of went off that
Yeah,
because I just found it was a bit claggy.
right, yeah, sure.
And I used to find, I don't know about anyone else, I used to find I get bad breath.
Yeah,
You get really bad breath from drinking milk and like cheese and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it was just that, because I was having a coffee every day and just wanting to reduce the amount of dairy I had in drinks. I just stopped.
yeah.
So that was happening before the whole vegan switch, and I think instinctively I was going towards that direction. But yeah, everyone's really receptive. My mates still think I eat grass, but I mean, I took them to like a Temple of Satan, which is like a vegan fried chicken place. And, yeah, they were quite eating it away. I was like, it was my birthday as well, so they couldn't really say anything that rude, because obviously it was my night. Don't spoil it. No, but
Yeah.
but basically they were eating the chicken. No real words of criticism, no real like negativity. We got out. I went, oh, what do you think? I went, do you know what? It was really tasty. Like, you wouldn't have need the chicken. I went, oh really? Does that make you want to go onto vegan food? They went, no, it does not. I was like, oh, brilliant. So,
Even with your cooking, have they?
well, no,
have they
the thing is,
tried
I
your
don't cook
cooking?
for my mates, but I should. And I think that's why the page came about, because I think the people that are vegan have a reason to be vegan and have found their reason. And with me, this page is to get people who don't know why they should be vegan or how they can be vegan, and getting them to open up to more vegan food.
I was going to say, let's have an intro. So we've moved forward to Made by Blitz. Now,
Yeah, the
right?
timeline's going a bit mad, isn't
Yeah,
it?
no, that's good. It's good, because I think it's kind of it flows nicely in terms of the chronology for me in my mind, that you've now come to the point where you're understanding how to cook.
Yeah.
You've made cooking fun. You've moved towards that physique you want. You understand the protein sources, and now you kind of want to share that message. So, how did it begin? Where does the name come from? Talk to us a little bit about the inception of it.
Right. So the name Blitz itself, it was always in my head, and I think it was all for different things. So I don't know about you, but when you're brainstorming or like you want to come up with an idea, you always intuitively come up with names for that idea before the idea's even begun. So I think I wanted to start off with my own health bar thing, and I just didn't really think anything. I just sort of thought about it initially, and then didn't go back to it for a while. But the first name I had was Blitz, because I felt like Blitz was quite a quick name. It was a quirky sort of thing, and it also meant like not only blending things, but which is what I do a lot, funny enough, and I don't actually mean to do it, but but basically that whole Blitz thing sort of cottons onto losing weight as well. It's like I sort of blitzed away my weight.
Yeah.
And it's not to say I was unhappy with the weight or whatnot, but it was just sort of like it filled me with more confidence. So that name stuck just on my notepad for years. And then I got more into vegan food. A year went by being vegan and cooking away, and I just thought I would start using my creative knowledge again. And I thought, yeah, why don't I just Call It Blitz, this vegan page, because I think at the time, and this is the great part of the vegan movement, we're obviously going through different stages of stuff. So the first stage was really like, obviously everyone getting into vegan food and finding out the recipes through Deliciella, for example, who's brilliant. But then Bosch came along and loads of other people came along and they were making these wacky vegan foods and it looks great, but some of their recipes, for example, I feel like the time you have to spend on them can be quite strenuous for what you get out of them. Not to say they're not delicious, it's to say that like you need to spend a lot of time in there. And some people don't have that time. So then I thought, oh, okay, who's actually making these recipes quick? And to be honest, ignorantly, I didn't see anyone really doing it. So I thought I may as well start and try and have a go at this thing. So I picked up my iPhone, I just filmed a recipe, and I thought, yeah, this one's wicked. It's like, it's what I eat every day. It's going to blow up. Oh, yeah. Mr. Big Ed over here. And yeah, it didn't, but it just made me go back to the drawing board and constantly improve and come up with more ideas to get message out there.
And what was the first one?
First one, it was like a tofu and tender stem broccoli stir fry.
Yeah.
And it was 59 seconds.
Yeah.
So it weren't even 30-second blitz or anything. It was just literally a meal.
Yeah.
That I put some like wacky music in, like not wacky, but like lo-fi hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like Casey Neistat
sort
of music. I used that, and I feel like the second recipe was like a blueberry smoothie, and that was 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, why don't I make them all 30 seconds? Which is a lot of stress when you've got some long recipes. Like, for example, if I've got a recipe that's got more than like 12 ingredients, I've got to suddenly say, put this, then that, then that, then that. It's like, oh, I feel like Eminem. You go like, blah, 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 blah.
Well, it sounds like it was fairly organic, but was the idea of 30 seconds, was that kind of key? Did you kind of think, this is the amount of time that I've got to hold people's attention?
For me, yeah. I feel like I made it for me in the sense that I have a really short attention span sometimes. If I'm not interested, I will switch off. But if someone's caught me in that first minute of a conversation, even the 30 seconds, I will give that attention to them.
Yeah.
So I was just finding maybe the recipes, for example, like Tasty, they were good, but they just, I think the overcomplicatedness of them and the waiting put me off them. So then I thought, oh, okay, why don't I just make it that quick format? And it was very organic in the sense that it wasn't really planned. It was just the fact that I thought that would be something I'd like to put my name on, like something I would like to make a lot of. Yeah. And yeah, that was it.
Yeah. And did you find that kind of people responded initially fairly well, or did it take some time to grow it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still growing now. I don't even consider it at like a, it's at a very good length, but I still have a lot more to offer and a lot more to give. But yeah, I think I didn't expect the actual response quickly either. So the fact that, say, I put a recipe out and then suddenly you're getting comments like from people that you wouldn't even know of, like someone in Venezuela probably would comment. You'd think, well, Jesus, how have they seen this? That to me was mind-boggling. And yeah, it took a few months by, and then you start meeting people, like mingling. And to me, that whole side of things has happened so quick because it started like early June, the Blitz thing. So I think about 7 months ago.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I've got the figure wrong, but yeah, it just it surprised me the amount of feedback you can get, and furthermore, I was surprised about how nice the vegan community are and how closely knitted they are. So it surprised me that they give time to a lot of people and watch you grow and stuff. But yeah, it still surprised me to this day that.
I was going to ask you about that about the vegan community, how they've responded to you. It sounds like positively, and kind of embraced you. Did you find how quick was that? Did you find that kind of support came quickly and readily?
Do you know it started? So I still to this day hand out leaflets of my recipes just to get the word out there.
Right.
And I started then doing that, and then the feedback actually handing people out recipes was very well received in terms of like people loved what I was doing and loved the idea that someone wanted to put their effort into making a recipe channel and not be paid for it.
Yeah.
So I think that surprised me, and then going to events and getting to chat to people that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like when I met Bosch, and they probably meet everyone and think, oh right, it's just an occasion, but to me that says a lot to actually spend time talking to someone like myself who's just getting started and giving the time to that person, even if it's minimal, to give that little bit of effort is great, and to not say sort of no to any question and sort of chat was very very surprising to me.
And have you done a lot of that kind of mingling through events like we're at now? We're obviously at Plant Powered Expo in Olympia. So is this the kind of event where you started to make some of those connections early, or was it all social media based?
I think it was a bit of both. So like for example, I met a few people. Like Picky Wops, I met at Vegan Nights, and Picky Wops, by the way, are this really cool vegan pizza chain. They've actually just, well, not a chain, but like an independent restaurant, and they've just opened their first restaurant in Brick Lane. Yeah. And I met them through Vegan Nights and talking to them through that. Yeah. And I met the people like Happy Pear and things like that, just talking to them through these events. But then on the other side, I became friends with Glenn John Jones. Yeah. And there's a guy called Giuseppe who helps run Plant Based News. I met them through social media. Right. So it was a mixture of both. I think you've got to put yourself out there in person, but you've also got to put yourself out there on the media. Yeah. Yeah. You can't just sit there in your bedroom and expect people to get to know you. But on the other side, you can't go to all these events and not have any content for people to find you. Yeah. So you got to do the both. Yeah, 100%. Talking about making the content, so were you always kind of into making that kind of video like growing up, or did you kind of have to? Was it a skill you had to learn through this process? No, so I used to make YouTube videos like everyone who sort of first starts to pick up a camera, and I love film and I still do. So yeah, I started off on YouTube when I was 12, and I used to make videos with my friends, and it always used to be like action movies and stuff, and I would download, I'd use things like After Effects and everything I didn't know, I would YouTube. And it's so important, the internet, the fact that you can find everything you want in an instant. So that's how I picked up the whole videography skill, and I'm still learning to this day. I feel like I wing it most of the time, but this page has ignited that passion again of creating videos and building your resource and building your knowledge to put something out there. And I never used to make these types of videos before Blitz. I just made videos that were like little action films when I was 12, and I used to make videos for companies and stuff like that. But that was it. What's the kind of frequency that you're turning out these videos? Because they're pretty regular from what I've seen. So I've, at first it was as and when. So it was as and when I thought of an idea, and then I've gotten into a routine now where I would do 3 recipes a week, and they would all be something that you could eat very quickly. And recently, as Veganuary went past, I thought I'd set myself a challenge of making a video every day. Right. Which was very fun, but tiring. Yeah. Like, in the sense that I feel like I still would to this day. I was on the train every single day editing a video, and then having that video go live in the evening or the morning, depending on how quick that video would get made. Sure. It was like ticking time bomb. Like it was like constantly. I'd have 40 minutes to get this video together, and for those who don't know, it's the page and myself. I upload 3 recipes a week. Right. I may actually start doing 4, because I'm actually finding, like, with the Veganuary and knowing that I can do that workload, I may as well just do more recipes a week.
And how about like coming up with that many recipes in a week? Have you got a kind of a catalogue that you've built up over years, or are you literally on the fly making up recipes?
I think it's A, on the flow, and B, what everyone else is making. So,
Sure.
for example, if I see a bowl and it's a lovely little looking smoothie bowl, I will look at that, but I will not look at anything else bar that photo.
Right.
Because then, if I know what's in those ingredients, I would then consider myself a copy, and I'm not a copy at all. I would just look at that photo and think, okay, how has that person created that? And then I'd look at the ingredients that we got and then think, okay, I need cacao powder. And I think, okay, brilliant, let me put that in a blender. And yeah, it just all comes from intuition. And also, I've started building up, say, things from restaurants. So, for example, if I go to Wagamama and I see that brilliant thing from Avant Garden Vegan, the Avant Garden Bowl, which, by the way, is a thing that Gaz Oakley and Wagamama did. I don't know if you're aware, but that is their collaboration. I would look at that and think, okay, he's put all these flavours together. I could use some of them flavours and make a dish like it. And, yeah, with regards to the organicness of the recipes and how they come about, it's purely me just going around and testing things and then typing it down and researching.
Does that take up quite a bit of your time? Because it sounds like quite time consuming.
It doesn't. I work 9 to 5s on in a job.
Yeah.
But evenings and mornings I would spend brainstorming.
Right. Okay.
And I still do. And yeah, I would just put effort into it.
Have you found people, just because of the sheer simplicity and the volume of recipes that you're putting out there, have you found, particularly perhaps through Veganuary, that folks have kind of cited you as a kind of a resource they've used in helping them transition? Have you had any of that kind of feedback?
I've had quite a few. So for example, my mate DM'd me the other week, and he lives at uni, and he was saying, look, I do want to start this, but I don't know where to start in terms of I can only afford maybe £5 a night. And I think, well, okay, and that's at most. And I think, oh, okay, right, well, why don't you use these ingredients and put that into something? So I was given advice through there, and then I get nice DMs through from certain people that actually say, oh, I love the food, I love your content, keep going and stuff. And yeah, it's good to know. You get some surprises over the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
And it's nice because you do think it just happens to the big people, but when you're getting that love and attention as well, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't faze me in the sense of I still want to do more, in the sense that I want to get out to every single person about recipes and things like that.
And what's the kind of the vision for you? Where would you like this to end up?
I don't know. To be honest, I would like to keep going with the sense of these recipes, and I'd like to be a resource of information. I'd like someone to maybe who was considering veganism to go, okay, who do I go to, or where do I go? I'd love to be that resource. I'd love to help people out in that way. And yeah, where does the future lie? I think it's just all depends on opportunity and what comes up. And at the moment, I'm just thinking about making the best content I can for people.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think that's a great motivation, isn't it, right now, is thinking about doing the thing that you're doing currently in the best possible way.
Yeah, exactly. I think too many people are looking at the end goal.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was at first. But obviously, as I said earlier, with thinking the video was going to get loads of views instantaneously. No, it's not correct. You've got to keep going. You've got to put some effort into it. But you've also got to have a difference to what other people are offering as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the bit I'm learning every single day on. And if I keep going, I know hopefully there's a good result for me at the end of this. And I don't think I could ever see myself doing I don't know, I feel like I could always see myself doing this in a way. I could always see myself giving people information.
Yeah.
And
I think that as a mission or an end goal, just that kind of purity of message around what I want to do is be a resource for people to help them transition to veganism.
Yeah.
Like that's almost like you get one person who's transitioning, and that feels like validation in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I do it just purely for the love of doing it as well. Because I've got to be honest, if I was bored of doing it, I would have switched off and I wouldn't be here, for example. But I absolutely love it. I love putting my effort into things, and I love meeting people and telling stories and finding out people use the stuff. And I've got such a small audience at the moment. To even get some reception is great.
Yeah. It's nice to know it's making an impact, right?
Exactly. Like, first podcast as well, so it's like,
That's good. It's great to have you on. If we were to, so you're a busy man. You've got a 9-to-5 job. You're trying to make and edit these videos.
Yeah.
Plus trying to come up with the recipes. I'm going to put you on the spot as to like what's your kind of go-to. You know, when you come home and you've done all that work, you just want to cook yourself a quick meal. What's your thing?
Yeah. So I love pesto.
Yeah.
I love pesto pasta. So it's always, I think when I'm dying for something, I always make a pesto pasta. And when I do the recipes, for example, I usually end up with quite a lot of it.
Yeah.
So throughout the week, I just use that vat of pesto and I just drizzle it and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a go-to.
Could you do us a quick recipe? A quick 30-second pesto?
Oh, what, now?
Yeah, if you were to...
Yeah,
like,
so...
Off the top of your head, I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's all right. Bit of a... Yeah, so the one I do is like, I call it a pesto.
Okay.
Because it's got peas in it.
Right, yeah.
So you do... You do like 100 grams of peas. Feels like I'm about to do a video, but you do 100 grams of peas, 80 grams of cashews.
Yeah.
Lemon juice, because you get that nice acidity. Nutritional yeast, which, by the way, it's like a Parmesan flavour.
Yeah.
So that's that element done. And that's probably the bit that makes it the pesto.
Yeah.
And then some olive oil and a bit of water.
Yeah.
And basil, including the stalks.
Yeah.
Because the stalks are going to get, the stalks are the good bit, actually. They've
Really?
actually got, you don't need to just have the leaves and stuff.
Okay.
So like coriander, for example, you could chop up the stalks and it'd be fine if you sprinkle it on top of that. But back to this, 50 grams of basil and then blend it. And then there's a pesto there.
Job done.
Oh, and salt and pepper, obviously, yeah.
And that's your week.
Yeah, that's
Pesto for the week.
Yeah, pesto for the week, or maybe like drizzle pesto on things. But that's one, and then stir fries. So usually it's whatever's in the fridge.
Yeah.
I do things systematically now in the sense of like protein, veg, little carb, and then
Nice.
chuck that in.
That's another thing I've noticed, particularly with your recipes. I think they sort of bust the myths and legends that vegan food is A, expensive, and B, requires an awful lot of weird ingredients.
Yeah.
Would you say that's kind of, again, a purposeful myth that you wanted to bust? Or is it just the way that you naturally cook?
I think it's the way I naturally do things. I feel like I'm a very get-to-the-point person. So I want things that are going to create flavour instantly. And, yeah, I think it's just in the sense of doing that first and creating things I like through through flavours that I would use regularly, that people can use regularly. For example, paprika, cinnamon for one, salt and pepper, things like mixed herbs and stuff.
Yeah.
They're things they're all essentials people have in their cupboard, like in their spice rack. So to use that and create a good dish is something that was a byproduct of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ever an intention to create those meals. I feel like I want to use ingredients that you're going to use constantly.
Sure.
Not things that you would say get out and buy and never use again. For example, like if you suddenly bought like black mustard seeds, you'd think, oh, okay, right, that was nice in that. Where can I use that again? I could use it in a curry, but I fancy a pasta. Oh, right, yeah, so I've got to ignore that now. And then you end up with a spice that sits there. So, yeah, I think for me it's always just been about using what's there and making something of it.
Yeah. And if you were, perhaps for somebody who's either transitioning into veganism or somebody who is vegan and perhaps isn't the greatest of cooks,
yeah,
what would be the kind of like, if you like, the short shopping list that you'd always have in your cupboards?
At the pantry, right. So the cop-out is a protein powder.
Yeah.
I would say if you are interested in the protein aspect of things, it might be because you already have an active lifestyle, and therefore you might go to the gym, and therefore you might have a post-workout shake here and there, or you like the idea of protein. Oh, they love the applause. By the way, if you do hear that, that's not for us, it's for someone else, but unfortunately. But basically, I'd get a protein powder, a vegan one, and I would get things like tofu, chickpeas. I mean, obviously I'm rattling off here, but you can get like veg that's chopped up and prepared for you as well, which is very handy if you have a quick and busy lifestyle. And then you can also get things like microwave rice and grains and bits like that. Oh, and also oats. They're things that you would think, hang on a minute, like, then what's the difference? Because I may already use these things. It's like, exactly, go bloody use them instead of criticising. But yeah, I would say it's just find what suits your lifestyle and what you like. So, for example, if you like stir fries, just buy veg, and then tofu works well in stir fries. Tempeh works well. Chickpeas sometimes work. Not in everything, but they do work. If you like Mexican food, black beans and things like that, like, just make things and buy things that you would ordinarily use, but just cut out the meat and dairy.
I love that idea of like almost working backwards. What is it you want to eat, and then sort of build backwards from there.
Yeah, exactly. So deconstructing food as such.
Yeah.
So taking the dish and thinking, okay, if I take out that bit and put this bit, how's it going to taste? Does it taste the same? Yes, perfect. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, for example, I use silken tofu a lot. I love the thing because it is that. Essentially, you look at it as a big watery block. It's tofu, but it's got loads of water in it and it's not been strained at all. So you have this block of silken tofu in a carton. You think, oh, okay, what can I do with that? It looks a bit disgusting. But if you blend that thing up, you've just made a product that looks and tastes like cream.
Yeah.
And once you add flavours into that, you've made a creamy sauce that's low in fat, high in protein, and then you've made yourself a sauce that you would ordinarily think would have dairy in it, and it doesn't. Yeah. That's a great example. Like,
such a quick kind of hack, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's an underrated one, but yeah, it's just in a case of deconstructing food. It's probably how the vegans first started out as well, creating things like curries and stews and stir fries, pastas, and deconstructing those from what they used to have and think, how can they do it now?
Yeah. That, I think that's where creativity is kind of born, isn't it? When you're cooking,
yeah, exactly.
that kind of mindset.
Yeah,
love that. So, where would somebody who's kind of interested, wants to find out a little bit more about kind of Made by Blitz, watch some of your videos, get some of your recipes? Where would they go?
I'm on the old Instagram. That's where I started and where I've always been. Made by Blitz is the tag or the handle, and I post there. I also have a Facebook, which I really just share the recipes from Instagram, but it's Facebook and mainly Instagram. So I would say give my Instagram a follow and check it all out.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time,
No,
Callum.
that's all right. Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll be checking out Made by Blitz. Do check it out, because some of the recipes are absolutely incredible. Particularly tofu scramble was the one that got me hooked.
Yeah, big up that.
And certainly told me a little bit about silken tofu as well, which, to be honest, before you'd mentioned it, I didn't have in my fridge.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
Cheers then.